Okay, so this is going to be going over doing a layout in Maya for the show here. The first thing I like to do is make sure that I have the proper work environment. Right now, this is just we have a button up here. Pam has made a button up here that you can use, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it manually, just in case you want to learn how to do it, because I think it's an important thing to have. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to use a template that already exists. And what I like to do is have the graph editor down below, because I pretty much live in the graph editor for the most part. And this is going to be our camera window. Now when I assembled my shot, I'll kind of go over that in a second, but I already have a camera in here, and I'll go about how I got the camera and whatnot. But I want to make sure that my camera is showing in here. So panels, perspective, shot cam. That's the name of the camera. Now I want to make sure that everything is set properly here to begin with. So I don't want to see, first of all, I want to have it on 6, which is textured mode. And let me see if I could pick something here so I could frame it a little bit better. F. Okay, so we'll frame on that. That's fine. The next thing I want to do is I want to have an overscan set, kind of like a gate mask, and that should kind of show the resolution of the film, which I don't know if this is correct, but for purposes of demonstration, it doesn't make too much of a difference. So the first thing you want is the resolution gate, and that kind of gives you that overscan. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that everything that you don't need to see is turned off, and that's in show. The first thing I do is I say show none, therefore we don't see anything, and then I show polygons. That's really the only thing that needs to be seen, okay, for this view. For this view, you really only want to be able to see, so I'm going to do the same thing in this one. I'm going to go show polygons, obviously, because we want to see polygons. And you don't need to see joints, you don't need to see anything like that. What you do need to see is NURBS curves, because those are the controls that you're going to be picking, okay? Something else that I like to do, I like to make sure that I have is up here, I make sure that I turn off my geo selection. This way I'm not able to pick any kind of geometry, no matter what I do. So that kind of helps me set up my views. So this is pretty much ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and right click on the pane over here, and I'm going to say save current layout. And I usually call mine layout in all capitals. I say okay. And then I need to go here, and I'm going to replace this one because I rarely use this one. Whatever your preference is, this one I rarely use, so I usually pick that. And I'll pick layout. It's right here, and it sets it for me. So now anytime I, say I'm in full view, if I want to go back to that, I just click on that, and voila, there it is. Okay? And this kind of helps you to see what it is you're working with while you're working with it. Okay, it's kind of a nice little tool. So that being said, how to set up a shot. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that your project is set always. If this is not in a tool, like right here she has a button that says set, if this doesn't do it for you, again, this is how you do it manually. Make sure the first thing that you do is set your project, and that is going to be I believe this is the correct path. Is that correct? Underscore 3. Oh, this one right here. Okay. Oops. I think I just need to pick it and then hit set. So then it should be set now. Okay. So this way, anything that you do will always be able to see all the textures and whatnot from that point on. So as long as everything is consistent, you should be able to see everything. Okay. Now, next thing, bringing in a reference. This has not been 100% fleshed out yet in terms of naming convention, but whenever you create a reference, you want to make sure that you are giving it a 3-letter code. If you go to the schedule, or the schedule, here it'll show you what the shot number is and the 3-letter code that goes with that shot. So when I'm bringing in the set, I want to bring it in the set and kind of tell it what scene I'm working in. So this is going to be the 3-letter code that you're referencing. Okay. So back to Maya. So The shot I'm working on is actually not GDN. It's actually the one before it. I didn't know that. So, but we're going to pretend like it's GDN for purposes of the demo. So GDN, and then I'm going to say, and basically that's under here. Make sure you use namespaces on. This is usually all set up for you by default, but this is usually set to this. So I want to make sure that I'm picking the middle one, which is use namespace, and then I tell it what I want. GDN. Make sure you don't put it in here, because I got confused with this a lot. These look very much similar, and they are both referencing a string, okay, as you can see. So make sure you're on this one and you're putting your three-letter code in here. So I'm going to go ahead and reference. It's going to say, okay, where do you want to reference it from? And I'm going to need a little bit of help finding this.
What are you trying to reference?
This is the set.
Assets?
Thank you. Oops. Keep doing that. That's the outdoor set. So I already have this in my shot, so I'm not going to do it, but this is how you would do it. And all you do is hit reference, and it'll bring it in. And let's pick Maya. You can go away. And you'll see that here it is, GDN. This is the set. So when I pick it, it picks the entire set. Okay. I did the same thing for the characters. The characters are also going to have three-letter codes. I think there's only well, there's actually quite a few sheep, and we're going to have to figure out a naming convention for those, probably like SH1, SH2, and whatever. But like the ram will always be like RAM, and then maybe the farmer will be FRM, something like that. But we'll come up with that, and you just make sure that you're using that in here. So in this shot, I have the ram and I have the rooster. Okay. I've also created a camera. Now going over cameras real quick, you have a couple different kinds. Camera is just a regular camera. It has a translation, rotation, and scale on it, and you move it around the way you want to. The next one is camera and aim. Basically what this will do is you put your aim where you want it to be looking, and then you move your camera around and it'll pivot always looking at that specific aimed point. Okay, so usually that's good for like an over-the-shoulder shot, you know, or something where you need a very specific movement. You just kind of have to choose it for the type of shot that you're using. Okay. In this case, I have just a regular camera, and I've double-clicked it and I've called it Shot Cam. This kind of went over in the other video, but so I've also went ahead and found out from either the animatic or from the schedule how long my shot was. This shot is 152 frames, so I added 16 to that. And the reason why we add 16 to that is for editing purposes. It gives us an 8-frame handle to slip the shot for editing purposes. So in case we need a frame here, a frame there, or maybe there's a bad motion blur on this one frame and it looks really bad in the edit, so we might need to slip it like 3 frames. So we make sure that we're buffering all of our shots with that. You as an animator or a layout animator are going to make sure that you're animating through the entire handles. So you're going to be going the entire length of the shot plus 16. Okay, so the shot actually will start on frame 9 and it will end on, what do we say that was, 152? That doesn't seem right, does it? It'd be 160. 160 will be where it ends. It'll be 8 frames later. So it was 152 plus 8 frames, so 160. So that'll be the actual frame range that we're working with. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but just get used to working with handles in a production house. They usually always have them. Sometimes they're 4-frame handles, sometimes they're 16. It depends on what it is. If you are in a place where you're doing a lot of simulation, sometimes your shots will start on frame 100, and that'll be as frame 100 because you need like 100 frames of ramp up, and we might actually need that for this show, so we might want to talk about whether that's going to happen or not. So if that does change, it's still the same kind of methodology. or I don't know if I said mythology. It's the same method, okay? So you would start on frame 100, and you would go to, I guess it'd be 268. Okay, and that would be how it works. Okay, and then so this way, when they have 100 frames of ramp up to get the simulation ready to go. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Been doing negative numbers for simulation since the render.
You can. I mean, you can, but again, you are. I think you are rendering it still, though. You're just cutting it off.
No, let's say I'm doing clothing or something
Uh-huh.
like that, just that it gets settled first.
Yeah.
And then it starts simming at one. Just for everything to settle, like particles and things like that.
However you guys want to do it is perfectly fine. I've worked at studios where we've started on 100. Just so if you do see that, that's kind of probably the reason why. Okay, so in any case, let's see where I am at with the counter. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick the camera, and since this is the camera view right here, I'm just going to go ahead and pick it there. This selects the camera, and then I'm going to frame it over here, which I don't see it. Oh, that's the other thing I might want to show when I'm setting up my view is cameras, because we're working with cameras. So voila, there it is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this kind of into its first position. I usually like to keep my auto key on. It depends on how you like to work. I can't stand having auto key off. It just kind of makes life a little bit easier, in my opinion. What's that?
Use it with caution.
Yeah. I guess you just have to be comfortable with it. So in this demo, we are going to be working with it on. Okay, so let's see here. Let me get my orientation here. And let's take a look at the shot. And what's going on here is we have the rooster falling. So what we need to do at the beginning of the shot is we need to see this beam, the rooster falling, and the camera moves until it gets kind of to the ground plane. So I'm assuming we're going to see a little bit of the house behind here, which is not drawn, but that's pretty much what we're going to want to see. So I'm going to rotate up, and hopefully, if I'm positioned correctly, oh, there's no beam. Okay, so we're going to improvise here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and create one. Cube. Oh, are you kidding me? There's another thing that I can't stand. Let's do this. Create polygon primitives, interactive creation. Just make the damn thing for me. Cube, okay. And then I'm going to snap it over here. F. And scale it up. It's probably way too big. My modeling skills. And hopefully that will be, do you know if it's longer than this?
It's longer. Like that, something like that.
Is it right around this position?
Yeah, we have the actual.
You do? Okay.
The latest barn actually has it.
Okay.
Not there.
Well, hopefully for this purpose, I think it'll work fine, and we could always adjust it after. Okay, so I can barely see the camera, so I'm actually going to just scale up the camera. You're not hurting anything by doing that, so if you need to, feel free to. Now the thing that I want to do is I want to line it up kind of with this. I want to kind of go behind it and then over here like so, and all of a sudden it's starting to take shape a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and set a key already for it. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to mess around with the focal length. Now I need to make this a fairly wide shot. If you want to think about a wide angle lens being like 8 millimeters and a kind of a narrower angle being like a 200 millimeter, that'll kind of give you an idea of where you want to work. So I usually kind of keep my constraints between 8 and 2